So, greetings and all that. On the mat again. Allow ourselves to take a seat. So I've got the central heating on because it's so cold outside. And the only place I really feel warm is when I'm 3 feet from the radiator, which just happens to be where I'm doing the class. So I'm going to sit down, first of all, in Sukhasana, and just allow ourselves to have a little stretch out first. Heels in, all the shoulders round. As with any class, do what you can, do what you wish to do. Don't push yourself too hard. Kind of think about how you're feeling every time you go down to the floor and every time you come back up. Kind of a ladder flow to this today, sort of a slow repetition of building on standing forward fold into a lunge, and then developing it from there. So just constantly build up gradually, more and more. By all means, if you just want to repeat a previous stage, you can do. Getting a sense of those hips opening out, especially if this is the first class of the day, the first stretch of the day. Let's release from that. Stretch the legs out again. Hopefully they haven't gone to sleep too quickly. Then we work our way back down onto the floor. So I'm going to use that block towards the back of the mat. Knees high, chin in towards chest and hands behind to support. Rolling down. If you've got any kind of shoulder issues that are a little bit tight, so you can always roll out to the side. Wriggle through the spine first of all, lift the hips around a little bit, wriggle the shoulders underneath, and then we'll draw the knees in towards the chest a little as well, just the tiniest of hugs. Just a little bit of an ebb and flow with the breath. The tailbone just starts to lift away from the ground a little bit. And we'll let the legs come back down, feet to the floor. Knees are still high. We're going to take the arms out in line with the chest and shoulders and palms facing out. Let the legs roll over towards the right. And turn the head to the left if that feels good. Bring that back up. Allow ourselves to exhale the next breath down to the opposite side. Lift the legs again as we breathe in. Realign if you need. Draw the right knee in towards the body. Slide the left leg out down the line of the mat. And then allow the knee to travel a little closer in towards the armpit. And then release. Slide the heels back in towards the ball. Take it over to the opposite side. So really gentle, easy start. Release from there. And feet back in. So I'm going to take the hands around the back of the right thigh and lengthen that leg up towards the sky. The hands interlace around the back. Spread the toes out a little bit. Just check that your foot is running down the line from the front to the back of the mat, rather than the leg twisting out or the foot twisting out. If you can look at your foot and just notice whether your little toe seems to be further away than your big toe, and try and bring them back into the same place. It's like you're pressing your foot against a flat object or the floor, rather than hovering around in space. The tendons in the feet are probably going to be visible because the foot's flexed and the toes spread. And we'll let that leg come down. And we'll do the same to the opposite side. So just stretching the leg out above the hip. Getting that little bit of rotation in the thigh that's needed. And pressing the hands into the back of the, pressing the back of the thigh into the hands. We'll get there in a minute. And then we'll bring that foot down as well. Let both knees come in. Give yourself a little bit of a hug. And then roll over onto your right side. Using your hands, press into the floor to lift up. Allow ourselves to bring that block in again. And I'm going to cross the legs again into that starting position of Sukhasana. So heels in towards the groin rather than crossing up ankles. And sitting up tall. I'm going to slowly draw the chest up towards the sky. Roll the shoulders back. I'm tilting the pelvis forward, so you can see me actually leaning into that a little bit. And then I'm going to tilt the pelvis backwards, and let the spine round, and shoulders will kind of slump and the head drops. Tilting the pelvis again, and rock the other way. So literally, we are doing cat-cow in a seated position. And trying to keep the legs relaxed as well. And it's a little easier as you come in because you're sinking into your balance point. As you're moving away, the legs will try and struggle a little bit, stop you from rolling back too far. So a little more awareness on the backward movement may be needed. Keeping those legs open and soft. And come back and take the first leg out, take the second leg out, and then cross them over the other way so that it feels different. And first of all, noticing whether the knees get easily down to the floor or the same place, or how do you feel? I always feel a little bit more tilted to one side when I take the second side. And then we'll lift again. And roll it back. Come back again. Going to lift the knees in towards the body and wrap the arms around the shins and drop the head in. So coming into a very tight, tucked up ball. Taking a couple of breaths here into the back of the ribs and into the shoulders. I'm going to release from there. Come onto the hands and knees. Move the block out to the side. Now those knees to come underneath the hips. I'll just take a couple of barrel rolls out to the side and around. And back into the center. I'm going to sit down gently onto the heels, the knees and thighs close together, taking the arms up towards the sky. Out to the side, above the head, hands into the heart. And the shoulders open up gently. This time I'll bring the hands down by the side of the body. Turn the palms forwards and start to take the hands forwards. And I'm going to press into the shins at the same time, allow myself to lift up. Bring the hands back down. And see if I can slowly sit back onto the heels. Palms forwards, lifting up. Relax, lift. And allowing yourself to take the hands towards your toes and head down to the floor. It's called child's pose, but it looks a little bit like a falling log as you come out of that pose into the next one. Just relax the back of the shoulders, Now the belly is squished. The breathing is a little bit more into the back of the ribs. Try and keep the breath soft and gentle. Nice easeful flow to the breath. So the body can expand gently in all directions. Ease the hands forwards again. Exhale away. Allow ourselves to move into down dog. Just tucking the toes under gently, lifting the knees away from the ground. Shaking the legs out a little bit. We're not going to stay in down dog for too long. Just a few breaths. And then we're going to walk the hands to the toes. And into a forward bend. Now let myself dangle here a little bit with the fingers on the floor. Slowly lifting the hips up towards the sky, pressing down into the feet evenly. Just spend a little time to find that place where you can get the weight even between the front and the back of the foot. Press the floor away. And I'll bring the hands gently onto the hips, soften the knees, let myself lift up. And take the feet as wide as the mat and the toes out a little bit. Bring the hands in towards the heart. I'm going to hinge forwards, but as I do, I'm going to start to bend the knees out and follow where the toes are pointing. So I'm going to come down into a squat. The hands on the floor, and the body kind of parallel to the ground. And then I'm going to roll the spine down, let the head hang. Drive through the legs and ragdoll back out as I exhale. Hands up towards the sky again, and towards the heart. Hinge forwards and bend the knees. Let them run out to the sides, follow the toes. Idea of just getting to the point where you're finishing bending the knees as the head and the back start to drop down, and then rolling back out again. Same again, lifting up. Hands into the heart. Softening the knees. Almost feels sort of unnatural to bend the knees that much as you come in. It takes a little bit of work. Rolling back out. Now, zigzag the toes back in again, and we'll take a little bit of neck circling. So I'm going to just drop the chin down and towards the chest. And take the chin slowly over towards that left shoulder. Now let the eyes look up the wall, across the ceiling. Being careful not to drop the head back too far. And then taking the eyes down the opposite wall, chin towards that right shoulder and in towards the center. We'll do the same again, and in the opposite direction. We'll go one more time in each direction. And then we're going to take a little side bend. So I'm going to take the right hand up, side bend over to the left, stretch that top arm out. So press down through the right leg, and I want to feel the muscles around the knee lift a little bit. Come back into the center, draw in the side muscles down. Coming up to the other side, taking it over. Bring myself back up again. Again, we'll do one to each side. And I'll take the feet a little wider. Allow myself to start rolling that left arm up and into some nice big circles. I'm letting the body twist. The knees are loose, the hips are moving around, the feet are accommodating the changes in balance as well. I'm going to work into the other arm. See how that feels. Take both arms up. And let the right hand come forwards and left back. Big circles. Just roll them around. Body still turning gently, knees still bending, hips still moving. And then we're going to come to the top. Go the other way. Come to the top and let them come back down and rest. We'll come towards the front end of the mat, having the feet about hip distance apart, and hands in towards the heart. Hinge down, soften the knees, fingertips on the floor, take a little breath. Take the right foot to the back of the mat into a nice lunge. I want to be on the fingertips. Check the front knee is over the ankle and the back leg is straight. Get a nice little press on that back foot, so slightly flexed. Chest lifts a little. And then maybe just moving the front foot a quarter of an inch or half an inch out to the side, to the left. And seeing how that feels to open out the hip a little bit more. You take a breath here and push off the toes of the back foot into that forward fold. Bring the hands onto the hips, let yourself lift. Hands back in towards the heart. And we're simply going to go down and do the same again. Soften the knees as we come in. Take the left foot back. Again, just walking that right foot out to the right, just half an inch, quarter of an inch. Noticing how that moves the hips around a little bit underneath. Just the fingertips on the floor, shoulders relaxed and back a little. Now take a breath from there and push off the toes into the forward fold. Make sure the feet land parallel, same distance apart as we started. Soft knees and lift. Coming towards the heart. Do that again, drawing the belly in, coming down. Fingertips to the floor. Right foot back, drop the heel in, coming into warrior two. So we're going to keep that simple. Just bring the hands onto the front thigh and lift ourselves up. So the first real opening into the groins with force, gravity, body weight. We'll bring the hands in towards the heart. Bring the fingers to the floor. Spin the back heel towards the sky. Step into the front of the mat. Land the feet carefully. Soften the knees, flat back to lift. Hands into the heart. And exhale down. Left foot back into our lunge. Drop the heel in. Hands onto the front side to lift. Well, open up. Warrior two to the second side. And keeping the back leg strong. Now you've pressed the foot down a little bit so you feel all the muscles in the back leg engage. Try to keep your shoulders relaxed down away from the ears. Belly drawn in a little bit. And the chest as much as you can turn into the long side of the mat. Whilst the front knee, little toe and knee point out towards the right side on this. It's always a little bit more open than it is closed. Bring the hands in towards the heart, rotate down to the floor. Spin the back heel back into the lunge. Push off the toes into that forward fold, onto the hips. Lift up. Hands into the heart. Exhale down into our lunge. We drop the back knee down onto the floor. Bring hands onto the front side, keeping the back toe tucked under. Lift up. Breathe in. Let yourself fold back down to the floor. Lift the back knee. Drop the heel in. Warrior two. The hands come into the heart as we breathe in. Gently roll down to the floor. Spin the back heel. Step it into the fold. Hands onto the hips. Lift. Hands into the heart. Second side. Going down. Left foot back into lunge. Knee to the floor. Hands onto the front thigh. Lift. Breath in. Lifting up tall. Folding back down. Fingers to the floor. Lift the back knee and drop the heel into warrior two. And onto that front thigh and open up. And bring the hands in towards the heart and down to the floor. Spin the back heel. And we'll step into the front of the mat. And hands onto the hips. Hands into the heart. Exhale down. Taking the right foot back, dropping the heel in for warrior two. Hands come onto the front thigh. I open up into warrior two. Now this time we'll bring the hands in towards the heart. Rotate the chest as we keep the body high, back foot connected. We're going to push away an invisible force and lean out over the front thigh. Allow ourselves to draw the right arm back up into warrior two. Bring both arms then above the head and turn the hips and lift the back heel into high crescent. Then we'll bring hands down to the floor. Take a little breath. Step into that forward bend. Bring the hands onto the hips. Lift up. Breath in, hands to the heart. Exhale down to the floor. Taking the left foot back and dropping the heel in. Hands come onto that front thigh and we lift up and open into our warrior two. Hands come in towards the heart. We rotate the body gently, press and lean out, the back foot hooked. Allow that left arm to come up into warrior two. Hands come above the head and we rotate. Allow ourselves to lift the back heel. Hands coming towards the heart and down to the floor. You step gently into that forward fold. Hands come onto the hips. Lift up. Hands come into the heart. We exhale down to the floor. Right foot back and drop the heel in, ready for warrior two. Hands come onto the thigh and we lift up. Open out. Hands come in towards the heart. We advance out again, pressing forwards. That right hand comes down this time. We lift into warrior two. Hands come in towards the heart. We straighten the front leg, turn the toes to the long side of the mat. Then carry on turning the toes towards the back of the mat. Allow ourselves to sink in to warrior two. Hands come in towards the heart. We press away towards the back of the mat. Left hand comes down. You open back up into warrior two. Hands come into the heart. Straighten the front leg. Turn both toes, both feet to the long side of the mat. Hands onto the hips. Get the spine long. Fingers to the floor. And then let yourself fold down. Doesn't have to be deep. Just letting it flow. Bring ourselves back up as we breathe in. Walk the fingers around to the front of the mat. Spin the back heel. Step it into the forward bend. And the hands onto the hips. Let it start. Hands come into the heart. We exhale down to the floor. Left leg goes back. We let ourselves lift into our warrior two. Hands come in towards the heart. We rotate. Press and lengthen forwards. Left arm comes down. We open up into warrior two. Hands come into the heart. Straighten the front leg. Turn the toes to the long side and then spin the toes towards the back of the mat. Sink into warrior two. Hands into the heart. And out again over the back of the mat. Invisible force presses away. Right arm comes down and we open back into warrior two. Straighten the front leg. We turn the toes to the long side. Hands into the heart. Hinge at the hips. Hands onto those as well. Let ourselves fold down. Lift. Move the fingers round to the front of the mat. Back into lunge. Take a little breath. Step ourselves forwards. Hands onto the hips. We lift up. Hands come into the heart. We exhale down. Right foot back. Knee to the floor. Hands to the thigh. Lift up tall. Down to the ground. Lift the back knee. Drop the heel. Hands onto the front thigh. We open up. Warrior two. Hands coming towards the heart. We're going to turn the chest. Now this time we're going to take the right hand forwards, left hand back as we stretch. Then draw the left hand forwards. Let ourselves lift up. Rotate the chest into warrior two. Bring the hands in towards the heart. Straighten the front leg. Toes turn in. Hands onto the hips. We exhale over and down to the floor. Bring the hands with you. Let yourself lift back up. Soften the knees a little as you bring your hands back onto your hips to lift. Open up into warrior two to the reverse of the mat. Hands into the heart. Take a little breath. Rotate. Left hand forward to right hand back. Float the right arm up. Bring ourselves back into warrior two. Hands in towards the heart. Straighten the front leg. Hinging over and down to the floor. Come back up halfway. Onto the hips and we lift. That's us to move into warrior two towards the front of the mat. Hands in towards the heart and down to the floor. Spin the back heel, forward bend. Hands onto the hips and we lift. Hands into the heart. Exhale down to the floor. Left leg back. Take a breath. Allows us to drop the back heel down. Hands onto the front thigh. We open up. Warrior two. Hands in towards the heart. We rotate. Left hand forwards. Right arm comes up. Open back up into warrior two. Hands in towards the heart and down to the floor. Lift the back knee, kneel to the ground. Hands onto the front thigh and we lift. Down to the ground. Lift the back knee, back into warrior two. Open the arms, straighten the legs, turn toes to the side, hands into the heart. Hinge at the hips. Down to the floor. Coming back up. Hands onto the hips, soften the knees a little, bring ourselves into the lift. Hands to the heart. Turn the toes to the rear of the mat. Warrior two. Hands into the heart. Rotate. Right arm forwards. Left arm back. Press it out. Left arm comes through. And we open back up into warrior two. Hands in towards the heart. We straighten the legs. Come down again. Little lift. Hands into the heart. Open up into warrior two to the front of the mat. Hands into the heart and down to the floor. Spin the back heel, take a little breath. Let ourselves step into the front of the mat. Hands come onto the hips and we lift up again. Hands into the heart. Take a little breath. Exhale down to the floor. We take the right foot back. Allow the back knee to come to the ground. Keeping the toes tucked under, we lift the hands onto the thigh and draw the body up. Coming back down over the thigh, fingers to the floor. I'm going to press the back knee away and drop the heel in. Now this time we're going to take the hands forwards into warrior one. So I'm going to bring the hands onto the front thigh, but keep the chest pointing forwards and the hips pointing forwards. Then see if I can take the hands up towards the sky. Allow my right arm to go towards the back of the mat and turn the chest into the long side of the mat and open out the hips a little bit as well. Take a little breath from there. Hands come behind your back. Allow yourself to rotate again towards the front of the mat, stretching the hands behind you. Going to hinge over the front thigh into humble warrior. Gently let the body sink a little onto the inside of the thigh. So my shoulder very handily sort of sits against the inner thigh knee like a little shelf. And I can bring the hips over the center line as I look towards the back foot. Squeeze the shoulders in a little. Bring hands up towards the sky or forwards. And then release the hands down to the ground. Spin the back foot, take a little breath. Step into the front of the mat. Legs are starting to get tired. Hands in towards the heart. Down to the floor. Taking the left foot back, letting the heel drop in. You'll take a little breath from there. Bring hands onto the front thigh. Let ourselves lift up. We'll take hands forwards into the warrior two. Opening up. Take a little breath. Hands behind. Turn the chest in again. Lengthen out. Hands high. Humble warrior. Let the hands come to the floor. Spin the back heel, drop the back knee. Hands onto the front thigh. Final lift to finish off. Hands come down to the floor. Lift the back knee. Step into that forward fold. Hands onto the hips. Let ourselves lift up. Just shake it all out. Take a side step. Nice and wide. Then take the feet perhaps a little wider than I was when I was doing the wide leg folds before, when I was in lunge, because your feet are kind of naturally set to a stance. Now we've opened up a number of times, we can kind of explore that openness a bit more. I'll tuck the tailbone down, the belly comes in, a little softness in the knee, like a micro bubble bend. Hands onto the hips, thumbs back, shoulders and elbows behind. Hinging at the hips, allow myself to come forwards halfway. Try and let myself hold there for a moment. The shoulders squeezing back a little. Try and get the elbows to get closer to each other. They kind of want to wander out to the outside edges of the mat. We're trying to bring them back into the center. So what your body does naturally and what your mind is trying to get it to do, not quite the same thing. Keeping the belly drawn in. Last little breath. Whew. Bring the hands to the floor. Now I'm going to zigzag the toes in gently, keeping the hands on the ground in front of me. I'm going to come into forward bend eventually, and just see if I can hook my index finger, middle finger around the big toe. The elbows move out, shoulders move out, lift the hips up. So that little lock with the fingers, draw the belly in. And then we'll release. Take a little breath. I'm going to walk the fingers just simply forwards, lifting the heels from the ground, bend the knees, and coming down into a squat. Move back sideways to the mat, so I'm facing straight forwards. Doesn't sound like great English, does it? And drop the heels onto the corner of the block that I've just moved underneath my feet, and let the knees and the feet wiggle and woggle out to the sides a little bit. And sit up nice and tall. If you're able to, relax enough in terms of feeling confident, you know, like fall backwards or forwards. You can rest your arms on top of those knees. And then let the chest open up a little bit and lift the chest. Just drawing the belly in a little bit. I'm going to let the hands come behind, lengthen the legs out. And bring the feet together and come into a seated twist. So I'm going to slide the left heel and under out towards that right hip. I bring the right foot across. The sitting bones on the ground, tilt the pelvis forwards a little bit, keeping this front knee high. I'm just going to take about 30 seconds here to breathe and let the shoulders relax. And whilst I do, I'm trying to let this bottom leg actually soften off a little bit. Some big rotation out to the side tends to tighten the muscles up a little bit. So I'm loosen them off just a fraction. And then I'm not even going to lift the left hand up and roll it across. I'm just going to turn the chest towards the right and bring the arms into position. You see the twist. Yeah, looking a little towards the back foot and upright as I can be. From there. Felt so peaceful. I almost fell asleep in the pose there. Nodded off, zoned out. Come back into the opposite side. Again, just find that easy sitting place. Pelvis tilted forwards. Just spend half a minute literally sitting here resting. And then again, we'll take the easy twist out to the side. So those little 30-second breath moments that we took, really there to bring our awareness into being still. We've moved around through our class for about 45 minutes so far. And that's been constant movement. And it's a struggle sometimes for the mind to stop moving around and being busy. Just taking those little pauses, listening and appreciating, and being aware that it's okay to stop sometimes and just rest, catch your breath, let your mind settle. And come back from there, lengthen the legs out. I'm going to move carefully into bridge pose. So I'm going to move the block out and just going to shuffle a little further forwards. So I know my head's going to be on the mat at least. Joys of being a long person. Roll the spine down. I'm going to take the feet a little wider than the outside edge of my hips, because I can use my fingers to feel where my heels are, and I can register where my outer hips are with the heel of the hand at the same time. I'm not suggesting everyone can do that, but if you're able to, that would be great. And then I want the knees to feel like they're directly over my heels. And I'm going to then move the hands alongside the body, moving the spine underneath a little bit. On the exhale, let's start to draw the belly down towards the spine and gradually notice the tailbone rolling away from the floor and lifting up very slowly, feeling one vertebrae at a time. Now, the legs are a little bit shakier than doing this because I have done a lot of work, and doing this super slowly just really works into the muscle fibers. It keeps constantly changing where the effort and controls is. So the nervous system's being challenged the whole time, as well as the muscular system. And then once we're as high as we can, you're going to try and press your knees towards the front of the mat a little bit. Now, as you do that, you'll feel the center of your buttocks deep into the buttock tissue start to tighten a little. And you'll feel the muscles around the front of the shin start to engage and pull down and tighten. We'll press into the arms a little. Now I'm going to start to release, but I want to come down as gradually as I went up. Those leg muscles are still doing work. They haven't stopped. They might even complain a little bit. They seem to understand the moving up process a little easier than they understand the releasing down. The other thing I'll notice is that somewhere along the line, they dug a big hole underneath you because it seems to be a lot further away than you remember it being. We're still lowering down. Finally getting there. It's a very gentle release. And you feel the buttocks completely soften off. Walk the feet gently in towards the center line and draw your right knee in towards your chest and take your hands around the back of the thigh. This time, interlace around just below the back of the knee. I'm going to press the leg into the hand and let the leg lengthen out. Just flex the foot. Bring that foot down to the floor. And we'll swap over to the opposite side. Again, hand quite close to the back of the knee, so it's high. Press the leg into the hands. The arms stretch, the shoulders stretch. As I bring that foot to the floor, I let both knees come in towards my body. Bring my chin in towards my chest. My arms around the shins. Have a little roll into that spine. So some people like forwards, some people like sideways, some people like a bit of everything. Let's see how it feels. Doesn't feel good on the spine to do this. Maybe the processes on the spine are a little long. Then just allow yourself to relax. Just draw the knees in towards the chest and keep the spine flatter, so it's an easier, softer hug. I'm going to take a little breath from there and let the feet come down to the ground. So we're all flat to the floor. I'm going to move the block back underneath the back of my head just for comfort purposes, for nothing else. And feet come to the ground. I'm going to slide the legs away to imaginary corners of the mat. I'm going to take my right hand below my belly button, palm facing down, and then the left hand above the belly button, and let the shoulders relax. And when I do that, my elbows reach the ground easily and my shoulders are relaxed. If that doesn't feel the case, you can just bring the hands back down by the side of your body, which is, again, more sort of classical version of the pose. Soften the jaw, relax the eyes as they close. And breathe. So wriggle those fingers and toes. Let the wrists and the ankles move around as we breathe a little deeper, feeling the body reconnect. To get into a stretch, whatever feels good for you. Slide the heels back in towards the body. Simplest, gentlest hug. Roll carefully over to the right side, keeping the knees in towards the body. Let's turn the whole body down to the floor and then press the hands into the ground on the exhale to lift up. Spin the body round to a sitting position. Whatever feels good. Sit up tall. Hands in towards the heart. Take a breath in as you close your eyes. As you let your chin drop, let the belly draw to your spine, bowing to the floor, still in your practice. And inhale, lifting back up. Letting the head lift as well, eyes open. Namaste. Thank you for joining. Hope you had fun. See you on the mat again soon.